either. And with that, I begin. Welcome everyone to the session with Shri Acharya Muralidhar. I am Prakriti Sharma from Worldview Education. For the last 10 years, Worldview has worked towards curating learning experiences across the globe for Generation Z. To deliver these powerful and insightful learning experiences, we use tools like travel, conferences, outdoor experiences, and simulations with the ultimate aim of transforming Generation Z into a generation of solvers. A key aspect of our learning programs has always been adaptive capacity, and we believe that it is this very adaptive capacity that is being tested now more than ever before. We feel that you, Generation Z, have the ability to impact both your local and global communities. And so we decided that a global lockdown was not going to hold us back from facilitating your learning. It is in this very pursuit that we have put together our first ever completely digital initiative, the Gen Z Solvers Interactive. And the theme for season 1 is Dialogues for a Post-COVID-19 World. We have thinkers, dreamers, entrepreneurs, artists, and change makers who will be sharing their powerful and inspiring stories on this platform. And today, we have with us Shri Acharya Muralidhar, a PhD in alternate medicine, author of Panchasutra for Perfect Health, which talks about disease prevention and reversal, and also Krishi Yoga, which talks about the future of sustainable agriculture. He has trained over 20,000 farmers in the field of sustainable agriculture, but his favorite way to spend time is with his cows in a farm. He's a true animal lover, believing in the well-being of all creatures, and has conducted over 100 workshops in communities and corporates promoting good health. There was a very, very long, illustrious resume of Acharya ji, which I had to unfortunately narrow down into these couple of lines. I have thoroughly enjoyed having conversations with him over the last 2 days, and I'm very certain that you will too. So welcome once again to the session. We will take questions at the end of it. Over to Acharya ji.
Wonderful. Good afternoon. Today's topic is food and health. Our body is made of 5 elements, basic elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. This body contains approximately it's a collection of human cells. Not only human cells, there are other microorganisms that reside in our body. And it is a symphony. We breathe air, we drink water, we eat food. To sustain this body where we all live. And this entire system is called microbiome. And they are in symbiotic relationship with each other. The food that we eat nourishes each and every single cell in our body. And we make so many new cells every day, and we lose the old cells. In about a year's time, 90% of all our cells are replaced. It is a continuous ongoing process. And all these cells, they require full spectrum of micro and macronutrients on daily basis to have a balance, and we call it health. And now we all live according to the natural system. Once we violate those natural laws, and there is something called imbalance, which is called illness. So we have to live in harmony with all these 5 elements and Mother Nature so that we achieve perfect health. Now, we have different cells in every part of our body, be it bones or be it brain, the skin, all our, whether it's liver, lungs, they are all unique. At the same time, they are all part of our human anatomy. And there is a balance in all of that. And this is a very, very complex human system. As I'm talking and I'm seeing, and my body is doing what it's supposed to do, breathing air, my heart is beating. So this is all done naturally. So probably it's the most miraculous entity in this universe. It is our duty to understand what this body needs in the form of nutrition, which is our topic today. Prakriti, you want to ask questions or?
Yes, Acharya. So everyone, we have a short poll that we'd like you to answer so that we have an understanding of your understanding on the human body. So we'll have the poll launched and you can take a couple of seconds to answer that poll. There are 3 questions. Please answer them and press submit at the end of it. Acharya, while we're giving people 10 seconds to fill in their responses, we have a question from Aryan who wants to know if you enjoy the lockdown period more than the time before lockdown.
I think we need to have both.
Right.
Otherwise, one thing becomes overpowering. So you need rest. You need to spend time with yourself, because that's when we grow.
Right.
That we take the time, as Socrates said once, unless you have leisure, you won't be able to think about life.
That's very true. I think it's given us all some time to reflect on the need to reflect also.
Yes.
So I agree with you about there being a bit of a balance. Aryan, I hope that's answered your question.
I enjoy both personally.
Great. Okay, I think we are going to end the poll in the next 5 seconds. If you have not yet submitted your answer, kindly do so. Okay. All right. So we have, can you see the results on your screen, Acharya?
Sure.
Right. So almost an equal number of people feel that we have 100 billion to 300 trillion cells in the human body.
Mm-hmm.
There are a large percentage who believe that the new cells are created. 95,000 new cells are created in the body every day, and about 32% believe that the lifespan of a human blood cell is 7 days. So would you like to enlighten us on the answers? Because I was recently schooled on this when I was talking to Acharya. So we'll leave the results on for you to answer, Acharya, and then we'll close this theme.
Human body contains about, on an average, 50 trillion cells. 50 trillion. That sounds like a lot. As far as since we replace 90% of all these more or less in a year's time, we make about 100 billion cells every day. We make new cells. To that effect, old cells will be removed from our body. And what is the lifespan of blood? 90 days. In 90 days time, every single cell in our blood is replaced. And the beauty of it all is that if we feed this body, if we supply healthy nutrition to this body, we can have a new lease on our body in a year's time. And in fact, you will start to feel fantastic just after 90 days, because the entire blood will be replaced in 90 days time. So our health is in our hands. It is not a fixed entity. That is the beauty of it. So if we I think that's the greatest thing. It is not fixed. We all can have perfect health if we choose to nourish ourselves with healthiest food possible. Now, going back to the presentation again. Interestingly, our stomach, namely the intestines, the small intestine we call it, 80%, 80% of all our brain chemicals are made in small intestine, not in the brain. Which means the food that we eat determines the majority of our mental health also. So that's why they say food for thought. Of course, we all eat food to satisfy the hunger or satisfy our tongue, but food also nourishes our mind. So if we eat healthy food, obviously we can have mental health as well. Now, what is human food? If we look at nature, our closest cousin lives in Indonesian forests, which is called orangutan. Male orangutan is almost 6 to 7 feet tall, well built, and muscular. It almost looks like a human being. And if you look at in the nature, an orangutan eats, majority of its food contains of fruits. And then it eats certain herbs. It eats certain leaves. And it has even capacity and intelligence to dig up some roots, tuber. So orangutans' diet consists of predominantly natural food which is available in the forest. Interestingly, for the past 50 years, scientists followed these orangutans and try to assess their physical health. So far, they could not find a single orangutan suffering from diabetes or hypertension or obesity or any of these common ailments that all human beings are suffering these days, unfortunately, even at a young age. So there is something that we can learn from the nature, and we share almost 99.9% of the DNA, and our anatomy is almost identical to orangutan. So if orangutan doesn't get any kind of disease, then why question becomes, why are we getting diseased? Obviously, the secret lies in the kind of food that we are eating. And they have done an extensive research um, among certain communities in this world. They are not connected to this modern living. Those people who followed their traditional ways of eating food, they are called blue zones, where people live beyond 100 years without any kind of so-called these modern ailments. Not just living longer, but also absence of all these chronic degenerative disorders. And they went back and looked at the dietary habits of these people who are living in, they call it blue zones. They found out that they eat healthy organic food, unrefined food, natural foods, mostly consisting of fruits and vegetables, and their protein source is pretty much beans and lentils. So there is a lot of science behind. So we started to learn what is ideal food for a human being. I think these two examples, they kind of give us an insight into the food and the natural health. Prakriti, you want to run a poll?
Yes, Acharya. So we have another one of the polls lined up for you, which my colleague will put up right now. Again, we'd like your thoughts on your understanding of what food is, your understanding of what healthy eating is. So please put in your answers. On the poll that is in front of you. While we are waiting for everyone to fill in their polls, if someone has a quick question, you can send it out to us on the Q&A and I will ask it to Acharya ji, or you can raise your hand and ask it to him yourself. And if you don't, it's okay. We'll take all the questions at the end of the session. Okay, we'll be ending the poll in the next 5 seconds. If you haven't answered, please do. Okay. All right. So the majority seems to be they seem to be in tandem. Eating fat makes you fat. The answer, which 65% of you feel, is false. How do you lose weight? A good 87% of you say a nutrition balanced diet. And how many meals should you ideally have in a day? 55% of you think 2 meals. So I will take it over to Acharya ji to give his opinion on this. And these are some of the questions that we discussed today as well. And it has been an interesting conversation for me. Over to you, Acharya ji.
Yes. The first question regarding fat, because I lost that screen.
Yes. It says, does eating fat make you fat?
Actually, our diet should contain, there is something called micro and macronutrients. Macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So our body needs fat, and fats are the cofactors for our hormones, meaning our body produces hormones, and actually these hormones, they are like they operate all our systems, biological systems. So we need healthy fat. uh, what is a healthy fat? Healthy fat is preferably unrefined. Unrefined meaning we should not use all these chemical systems to refine it. It should be whole, and it should be preferably plant-based, and it should contain something called omega-3, omega-6, omega-9 fatty amino acids in a natural ratio. So yes, this body needs fat, uh, preferably unrefined and preferably plant-based. And the second, we can elaborate on this later in the question and answers. And what was the second question, Amma?
Yes, it was how do you lose weight? Do you do it by eating less, by skipping carbohydrates, or through a nutrition balanced diet? And about 80% of our audience feel that it is through a nutrition balanced diet.
Huh. There is so much confusion around weight loss or overweight, or how to achieve perfect weight. Actually, Ayurveda has a fantastic principle called each one of us, we have a unique constitution, which means some are little over, some are skin little under, some are uh, normal. But this is very misleading, because pitta type of constitution, they tend to be little lean. Kapha constitution population, they tend to be little over, and vata, they tend to be in the middle. So there is no one size fit all, but weight is not our goal. Constitutional balance and how healthy we feel, both we feel and are otherwise. So health should be the objective. Now question becomes, eating less or eating more is not the answer. Eating a balanced diet, full spectrum diet based on our constitution, that's a different subject and a very broad subject, but balanced diet we should take. And the third question, how many meals should we have? In fact, um, if you look at all ancient cultures, even according to Ayurveda, we have been eating 2 meals a day. One around 10 to 11 a.m. and the second meal preferably before the sunset, say between 5 and 6 p.m. Now, this body, as we discussed, made of 5 elements, and it is in sync with Mother Nature and natural laws, and we call them circadian rhythms, meaning just like sunrise and sunset, how it will have an effect and effect on our body's rhythm. So our highest metabolism happens between 10 and 11 a.m. in the morning, and second time between 5 and 6 p.m. So when we have the highest metabolism, then if we eat food, it gets absorbed by our body better. Or otherwise, improperly digested food leaks into the blood, causes low level inflammation, which can manifest into any number of diseases, not in a day, but over a period of time. So 2 meals per day is ideal. So Prakriti, shall we move on to the next?
Absolutely, Acharya.
Food paradigm. I know it's a very vast subject. I will, with the given limited time, I will try to illustrate what blue zone people discovered, what Ayurveda says, what the fundamental principles of natural laws, because we are not a lion, we are not a cow, we are a human being with very uniquely different anatomy when compared to a cow or a lion. What I mean by that is, cow eats grass, it will never eat meat. Whereas a lion eats meat, it will never eat grass. Then automatically the question becomes, what a human being should be eating based on the biology. Um, our closest cousin orangutan eats fruits, tubers, leaves, herbs mostly, and we now know it never gets diseased. And people in blue zones who are living healthiest lives and the longest lives, and they also eat um, almost natural food. So let us look at what we can learn from these two aspects. Now, our body requires a balanced diet. There is a balance called acid alkaline balance. Our blood is generally between 7.3 to 7.4 pH, which is slightly alkaline, not acidic. So whenever we cook food, automatically it becomes acidic. So that doesn't mean we should not eat cooked food, but cooked food should be complemented with natural uncooked food, which is obviously salads and fruits. They are not cooked. We can eat them. We can make them very tasty also. So that is the fundamental principle of a food paradigm. Now, when it comes to macronutrients, we talked about carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. As far as carbohydrates are concerned, we are eating too much refined and almost undiversified carbohydrate source most of the world. Uh, so we need to have diversity in our carbohydrate intake. And for a long time, especially in India, we used to eat millets along with rice, along with wheat. But day in and day out, eating rice or millet, wheat is not healthy. So there should be um, a wide variety of grains as a carbohydrate source, such as foxtail millet, kudo millet. Um, there is, lots of millets are available now. We should include in our carbohydrate intake. Next comes, you have protein. This is a big one because um, this body is designed to take not exactly prepared for non-vegetarian. So how do you how do you get your protein in vegetarian source? You have the best source I would suggest would be green gram sprouts. Not just green gram, but you have to make them sprout. When you make them sprout, um, the protein becomes easily digestible or assimilated by the body. And now the science is proving that green gram sprouts are one of the best and highest quality sources of protein. And you can have any sprouts based on your taste and interest. And the other macronutrient is fat. The fat, uh, basically oils. Oils are fat, and unfortunately, for the past 50 years, we resorted to refined oils. But I think we should not use refined oils. We should use only cold pressed virgin oils from whatever the source, whether it's sesame or whether it's there are many seeds available, sunflower or even coconut. Coconut is a superfood. So we should take cold pressed unrefined oils, not refined oils. So those are the in a nutshell the major sources of our macronutrients. As far as micronutrients are concerned, you have whole host of them. You have vitamins, you have trace minerals and things like that. So how do you get them? You take fresh vegetables, you eat salads, you eat fruits, you eat soaked nuts and soaked seeds. You get all those micro nutrients that your body needs, and that's a great source of micronutrients. And there is one more thing I think that we are missing at this moment is our salt intake is going very high, and it's not healthy. And we can use sea salt, but however most of the salt plains where they make these salt forms, it's mostly polluted. I would not say we should take that raw salt, or refined salt is even dangerous. But I think we should be taking rock salt, they call it Himalayan rock salt, which contains about 84 trace minerals. I would say that is the purest and the best source of trace minerals, which are extremely important for our body. So, healthy diet consists of salads, green salad or a regular salad, tasty salads you can make it, and plenty of fruits, and then seeds and nuts, and healthy fats, cold pressed oils only, and diversity in our carbohydrate source. You can include all kinds of millets, because you can make highly very delicious foods out of these millets. So diversity is also one of the key principles of our healthy diet. Amma Prakriti, I think time is running out.
No, we're okay. We'll move on to the next one.
You have a poll? లేదు కదా?
No, Acharya.
There is no poll. So
No.
should we summarize and move on to the I will
Absolutely.
summarize it at the end. We can probably take question and answers.
Certainly. So we'll take a couple of questions that have been asked. Okay, so one of the questions that have been asked is, what made you start this research on food and its impact on health? Were you inclined towards this knowledge since your childhood, or was it sometime later in life that your interest moved in this direction?
I'm I'm trained as an environmental scientist and an engineer, and later on somehow during my postgraduate study at University of Maryland, I started to read books on various subjects, which got me interested into holistic health and wellness. So then I went on, and when I came back to India, then I took this up. So not from my childhood, but definitely during my postgraduate study, yes.
That's interesting. It's never too late, I guess, to learn and move your interest and direction towards health and of mind and body. So thank you for that. We have another question. Oh, there's an interesting question. What would be your 5 go-to meals? Like, what would be your 5 favorite meals?
Ragi malt with buttermilk.
Okay.
And foxtail millet as my carbohydrate source. We can make it khichdi or things like that. And I eat red rice. There is red rice, which is, there is a lot of science. I published several papers on it, how you cook rice and how you cook carbohydrates. Probably we can have a session on that because it's extremely important.
Right.
Because most of the food that we eat in the form of carbohydrates contains lectins. Lectins are called digestion suppressors. So when you remove lectins, most of the autoimmune disorders simply disappear. Autoimmune disorders such as skin problems, these days multiple sclerosis, almost every modern disease is linked to autoimmune disorder. So lectins are a major part, but we have to know how to cook these carbohydrates, because I observed how my grandmother cooked. So then I went and did some research, and I published papers on it. So I prepare carbohydrates only according to those traditional methods. What was the other question?
So there are a couple of questions on two topics, and I'll say them. I'll combine them and ask those to you one by one. So one of the popular questions that is here is regarding non-vegetarian, and regarding people asking whether it's something that can be considered within healthy eating. There are from a evolution point of view, humans. Someone said have canines in their teeth, etc. But it's about how non-vegetarian factors into healthy eating and body.
Um, Food has two parts. One is taste, the other is health.
Right.
So, so it is up to us which one we want to choose. So, but anatomically, biologically, psychologically, or otherwise, this human body is designed just like an orangutan, which is a pure vegetarian. Of course, people eat meat because it tastes good. So we have to draw a line. I'm not saying you should uh, just by tomorrow morning we should become vegetarian. I'm not saying that, but try to minimize that would be a healthy idea. Number two, these days, mostly poultry. If you look at how that poultry is manufactured like a factory, if you know the full story, you will never even touch. That's how sad it would be. Not only sad, because they just pump so many chemicals, and we don't want those chemicals be entering in our body. That is one. As far as fish is concerned, yes, I mean fish, uh, people can eat if they wish to. But I would recommend to stay out of poultry altogether, including humble looking egg, because to produce, a farmer has to produce one egg every day. And you know how they do that? They just give them antibiotics. Simple. So
I
that's dangerous. So yes, but learn more, choose wisely, and but I would recommend you can still enjoy to a certain extent, but I would say poultry and poultry products are not recommended for healthy. But you can always get your protein from sprouts, which is healthiest.
Right. I think that has always been the question with regards to non-vegetarian, and that's always those are some conversations that I have as well. The problem also is more about how this meat and like you said, poultry especially is bred for consumption, which is unhealthy, and that's something that of course we have to keep in mind in this day and age. So that's a good thing to reflect on the balance of how much and what kind of meat is consumed. So
Yes.
the next question that we have, I'm again combining two questions. In the era of packaged foods and westernized food marketing, right from early childhood, how can we motivate children to eat healthy? And an added question to that is, how do we ensure we find the right quality of products for this kind of food?
I'm a brahmachari, so I have no experience in training children. So I don't have any qualification talk about how to train the children, but probably I can say a change will not come in a day. It is a process. Um, Even as an adult, if we want to change, we want to change gradually.
Right.
So talking to them and taking time to make healthy food that is equally as tasty as what is bought in the you know you know in the shop or food market. So I would say once we start making organic food, I'm an advisor for an organic food restaurants here in Hyderabad. So we have organic food only, and people come there and say, sir, we never tasted food like this, because organic food tastes better naturally. Once you make traditional recipes, you will never eat regular food again. So healthy food can be far more appealing than the food that is marketed by the businesses. Here I just want to share one important aspect. During World War II, they discovered that Japanese soldiers were eating better than American soldiers, because most of the food that was in a war situation, you cannot have a restaurant. So, you can have a you all you have to have is tin food. So a brilliant scientist went back and found, what is this? Why Japanese soldiers are eating much better, the same tin food, and our American soldiers are not eating? So he discovered that there is something called um, monosodium glutamate. It's a natural substance. If anybody had sushi, they wrap sushi with um, uh, a leaf that they harvest in
Right.
the
Seaweed, right.
kelp, we call it.
Yeah.
So that kelp contains monosodium glutamate naturally. So what it does, it makes food appealing. So then this gentleman went back and set up a company to produce monosodium glutamate, that is called tasting salt.
Right.
So all these food processing industries, what they do, anyway, their food is stale, they simply add this chemical, which actually hypnotizes our brain to think very bad food as great food, and gets you into something called addiction.
Oh, that's interesting.
So all processed food contains a hypnotizer called monosodium glutamate, which is an excitoneuratoxin. What it means in simple English is, they took a group of young children. Um, a group is generally eating regular food that is bought in the market. The other food, they gave them food that is not containing monosodium glutamate. After 90 days, all those kids eating food without monosodium glutamate, they became calm, their cognition increased, their emotional intelligence increased. So that is quite sad, I would say, to 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 I feel, I think we should all make our own food. And annam parabrahma swarupam, meaning the food that we eat nourishes our body and mind and soul, which is very sacred. We have to make it like that. We have to treat it like that. We have to uh, uh, accept it like that. Food is not like putting a diesel or petrol in your vehicle. This is a divine body. We have to treat it like that if we want to be happy, healthy. um, I think that paradigm shift has to come.
Important, and I think that's what someone's written, because you spoke about nourishing the mind, and so someone's asked, how does food determine the nourishing of the mind?
Our small intestine actually makes 80% of our brain chemicals. Now, if we are eating food that is chemical based and it has no nutritional balance, it doesn't have full spectrum nutrition, obviously chemicals that are produced in the small intestine will not be healthy. So that will have a direct biological connection with the mind. Now it is scientifically proven. It is called gut brain connection. So Ayurveda says healthy sattvic food makes the mind healthiest. So now it is a proven science that we must eat healthy full spectrum sattvic food if we want to have a healthy mind, because our small intestine makes 80% of the brain chemicals.
Thank you. We'll take a few more questions, Acharya. So someone's asking, what is your opinion about zero-calorie food, such as kale, celery, etc.? And they would also like to know what motivates you to constantly make healthy choices without slipping. I also would like to know that.
The first part, the whole for a long time, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, which is basically a mouthpiece for food industry or food business. So they get together and write whatever they want to write, and we all are supposed to believe it as a Bible or maybe Bhagavad Gita. Now, now people are realizing that that is a business propaganda. So there is we should not focus so much on calories. That is a very uh, not a valid way, and it is just a fad industry. Calorie, uh, just eat, just eat, and see how it digests. And unless you feel hungry, do not eat. And over a period of time, you will know how much you need to eat. And if you, interestingly, I travel to East Asia, my favorite place in the whole entire world. You know how much rice they eat? They eat this much, meaning the entire rice I can hold it in my palm. But we Indians want to eat a lot of carbohydrates. I don't know why.
I'm just smiling because I probably come in that category.
So, I mean, they give you very small bowl. Maybe 2 teacups of rice is good enough even for farmers. Um, uh, I was driving in Java in a very remote island, a remote village. Java is an island in Indonesia, and farmers invited us for lunch, and they were working all day long in the field, and they were eating only that much of rice, which is no more than 2 cups. So I think we are unnecessarily eating more carbohydrates. But it is an addiction. You cannot get over it in a day. You have to do it gradually and shift over to millets.
Right.
And the second part, what was the Amma?
How do you manage to stay on a healthy food lifestyle without slipping?
Sleeping. I think it is the transition has to happen, and unless that transition is proper, it's very difficult to stay on course. What I mean by that transition is it should be a conscious effort, understanding it, and at the same time putting time to make those foods, and then you gradually evolve into that and make a conscious decision, because I want to have physical and mental health. I would give anything, I would trade anything for that, not for the sake of my tongue. I
So,
cannot live for my tongue.
so no
I'm more than my tongue.
so no cheat days for you, Acharya ji.
कभी कभी कर सकते हैं, meaning you can see in olden days
Right.
there used to be functions, right? Maybe once every quarter and festivals and things like that.
Right.
There is no restriction on that. But on daily basis, we cannot do that. But 3 times a day, we have a festival, food festival going
Right.
on. And there is one more interesting study. If you don't take full spectrum nutrition, you will have eternal cravings for food. Unless you fix that, it's very difficult to make the transition. So your body requires all micro and macronutrients by virtue of your diet. Then you will not have cravings.
Right. That's interesting.
We can, oh, this is an ocean, but we can probably, take few more sessions as needed,
Sure.
and we can focus on a very specific subject.
Right. I actually found your, the line that you said about don't look at calories, look at nutrition, because especially in this day and age when there's so much happening around gym workouts and, all kinds of information about diets and things like that. And people talk about calorie deficit diets, etc. And that seems to be the new fad. So it's interesting where you say that you have to listen to your body, eat as much as is needed. You don't have to constantly eat just because tradition or not tradition, but it's prescribed to have 3 meals a day, etc. So it's interesting to know that calorie deficit is not something that we should be focused on, because someone has asked us also that if we only do exercises and work out, can that make us fit even if we eat normally with the way we might just eat? So
it's like this. Let's say you have a problem with an electric gadget in the house. You cannot just go and just unplug the turn the main switch off. That's not a solution, is it? You cannot find solution just by switching the main off.
yeah.
You have to repair it. So we should not go into all these confusing fad things. There is so much wisdom. Absolutely. I mean, in this day and age of information, Dean Ornish, Gabriel Cousins, Andrew Weil, Deepak Chopra ji, ancient Ayurveda, amazing Blue Zones knowledge. We, I think we should stay away from these ads and media. And beauty is we have the power of the internet, so you can specifically look at and learn what you want beyond all these shoppies.
Right. So I think a last question that we'll take here, Acharya, before you sum up your presentation, is if you can shed some light on what can possibly be the way of healthy eating and mind also, especially considering the situation we are in terms of the COVID situation, and very importantly post-COVID. So I'm assuming and I'm hoping when people get out of their houses and out of the lockdown, there could be a mad rush for sort of making up for all the lack of access to let's say not very healthy food. So and while that could be normal to some extent and could be the first instinct, what would be your recommendation with regards to that, and also on how to make the best use of our time currently while we're under this lockdown, and how we can make our timings and meals most effective during this time, especially considering the fact that the exercise and your daily movements have obviously reduced a lot more. So in terms of how the meals can be structured and how can the days be more made more productive.
The first part, now we are in a situation. Human immunity is almost nothing less than a miracle. We have our white blood cells, always like our army. They guard us against these 380 million different viruses that we live in on daily basis. The only protection that we can have is called immunity, which is white blood cells. How do you increase the immunity beyond this lockdown or forever? Immunity is a function of healthy nutrition. Number two, as Antapuravasi hai hum, Antapuravasi meaning we don't work out in the sun with our body. That is called Antapura. Antapura means inside. We need to have only warm water, 2 to 3 liters based on our thirst. And if you go to Kerala, interestingly, for at least 5,000 years, they are drinking warm water. I mean, 40 degrees outside temperature, you see people drinking warm water. There is a lot of science behind that. That is called, for Antapuravasis, warm water is the only way to boost your immunity and balance your metabolism. So I would recommend, I have been doing that for the past 25 years or more. And I would recommend that to every one of Antapuravasis. And I recommend that in every class. And my mother, everybody, all my friends and family, and people who come and see me, I would recommend, unless you drink warm water, nothing I'm going to say is going to work for you. So that is one. Number two, as far as boosting your immunity is sugars. Sugars meaning sweets. We all enjoy a bit of sugar. That's no big deal. But eating sweets will actually compromise your immunity. So that is number two. Number three, stay away from non-vegetarian because there is so much research now. If you want good immunity, if you want protection against the current situation and the future, I would say, it's your choice again, but that is definitely a recommendation purely based on immunity. I'm not talking about any other aspects of it. And there is enough research to that effect anyway. So these are the three things. Drink warm water, no sweets, if possible take I think nutritional supplement, any good quality nutritional supplement, which is called full spectrum nutritional supplement, whatever that is available in the market, that contains D, zinc, A, C, all those things. So I would say for now, just take those nutritional supplements. It's very important because there is a study done. 90% of the people in our country, though we are in tropical area, we are vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D is the master hormone, and that is the backbone of immunity. So we have to take vitamin D. There is no other way around it. I cannot make people go and run in the sun for 8 hours in this situation or anytime because we have work to do. So you have to take vitamin D. The second part, how do we utilize this or make most of this time? I think wisdom is the most important thing in modern life, not the information. Information you can buy probably 2 tons for 5 rupees. Information is not. You need wisdom. So wisdom, you have to increase that. That can only come from classical literature, not these fad books or New York Times bestseller. I mean, this world has more literature than a human being needs, which is classic. Classic meaning time tested. So reading good books is very, very important because nobody will ever come to my house and tell me what I need to know to be healthy. Nobody. I have never seen anybody coming to my house and tell me, give me upadesha. And it is through books I do that. And after reading, you think. And then over a period of time, it matures into a fruit called wisdom. So reading, listening to good music. I absolutely love classical music, Western or our Indian. Amazing, amazing. It transforms the entire human being, and develop um, hobbies, whatever you can do it at home. Um, uh, See, YouTube is a blessing in disguise, I would say.
Shout out to
but
our YouTube people, all those
but
subscribers to YouTube.
oh my God, so many people talk so beautiful things, and it's click of a button. Without doing much, I can listen and learn. I mean, what a privilege. Mahatma Gandhi used to sit under, um, uh, uh, you know, a small lamp, and he used to read. We have ACs, we have 4G phones and all that, but we don't use it. So, reading, listening, um, and if possible, learn meditation. Meditation is meditation is the ultimate thing that we all need, which is called needs, physical, mental, and spiritual. Meditation is a blessing, and without meditation, I think there is no harmony in life or anyone's
Thank you so much. We'll take one last very quick question because we are running quick on time. So someone has asked that organic vegetables tend to be a lot more expensive than what is readily available outside, and there is always a concern with raw vegetables with regards to pesticides and other harmful additions to it. So what would be your opinion on that? Uh,
life. What you do, you take any vegetable, put it in water, and add spoonful of vinegar and a little bit of salt and turmeric, and soak it for, let's say, 20 minutes. It will remove all the microorganisms. At the same time, majority of all chemicals that are present. Just by cooking, you will never remove pesticides though. Whether you cook it or you don't, pesticides will be there. But that is not the major issue here. The major issue is you just soak it and you make it hygiene, and they are fit enough to be consumed. As far as organic vegetables are concerned, interestingly, I ate organic food all my 10 years in US. But after coming here only, I'm having questions. And ironic thing is, I train farmers and organic farm. So, yes, uh, prefer naturally grown. Let us say that is a better word. It's not, organic is a brand, but naturally grown and as fresh as possible, and you will do perfectly all right.
That's an excellent point. Naturally grown rather than going by the brand of organic per se. And of course, using the tips that Acharya gave regarding cleaning of vegetables to remove as many pesticides as we can. And on that note, I think we'll put up the screen of your summary, Acharya. Thank you so much for the questions, everyone. We will summarize this with Acharya's last screen before we say goodbye. Right. So
The food nourishes every single cell in our body, and that is the fundamental aspect of health. So healthy food consists of full spectrum nutrients, includes micro and macronutrients in an unrefined person, an unrefined manner. There is a connection between the food that we eat and also our mental health. Avoid processed foods, refined foods, and try to eat traditional foods and include lots of fruits, and salads into our daily diet. Try to avoid or minimize non-vegetarian, and um, you can create your own recipes using diversified food, and try to eat only when you feel hungry, not because you just want to eat. That's very important. And as far as immunity is concerned, drink warm water, avoid sweets, and avoid non-vegetarian as much as possible. Once in a while, it's okay. That is the only way to make our immunity robust. Um, this is, we live only once. Every day counts. And we have every right to be healthy. And that right is within our capacity. So eating healthy is very important, and that has a direct connection to the mind. And we should learn, and nobody will come and teach us. So we have an opportunity to self-study and learn on our own, experiment it, and we will get perfect health. Added to that, um, you know, art is the most important thing. And of course, meditation is the food for mind and soul. That is the best way to live and rise up to our fullest potential. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Acharya. It was a very, very enlightening and wonderful conversation. I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure our attendees have learned from you as much as I did, and we enjoyed the conversation. For all of you whose questions we might not have been able to answer, I apologize in the interest of time. But please feel free to reach out to us through our social media channels to continue this conversation. We will pass on the questions to Acharya ji and hopefully have more sessions with him. On your screens right now are our social media handles. Please follow us and ask us questions. We would love to have more conversations with you on food and its impact on mind and health. Thank you so much for joining us, Acharya ji. Thank you for your time. Thank you all from all parts of India and the world for coming to this session. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, not just during quarantine, but also afterwards. And thank you once again for coming, joining us, and have a good evening.
Wonderful, Amma. Sarve bhavantu sukinaha. Sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.